day 2 of the April 98 7-day retreat in Springwater. Can the listening as well as the speaking come out of silence? The silence of breathing, all kinds of physical sensations, birds twittering, tapping, barking. How simple can the being here be? Why talk? Asking in the midst of this listening, twittering, tapping, breathing, what practices do you give people? What shall my practice be? These are normal questions asked by people coming to a meditation center and expecting to do something or to be told to do something. Doesn't that underlie the question, what is your practice here? Underlying it, this old conditioned level of thinking, what should I do? What is the right thing to do here? Or the wrong thing? And then, am I doing it right? Or am I doing it wrong? Am I doing enough? As much as others or less than others? Aren't these all familiar questions? What's the woodpecker's practice? So, we come here with all kinds of good intentions to do the right thing, or to do as well as last time, or whatever. For each one of the 42 or 43 people, a slightly different motive. And yet, a motive for all of us, isn't there? And are we already hearing that question as implying a criticism? I haven't spoken about this yet, and it's time that I did. A lot of things are said here about motives, about image making, memory, interfering with seeing directly. All kinds of things are mentioned. And this conditioned brain is so incapable of hearing it simply, already hears a criticism in it. It already adds to what is said that this is the right thing to do, and the opposite, therefore, must be the wrong thing. Or the other way around. This is the wrong thing, and the opposite must be the right thing. This is then what I should be doing. So, how simply can we listen? Talked about listening a lot yesterday. Not adding interpretations, which happens so automatically. It takes a very astute awareness to catch that one already added judgment. That Toni is judging. She thinks I shouldn't be thinking. It sounds funny. It's not as coarse as all of that. To put it simply, it may not sound very refined, but this way we can understand it and then discover the refinements in ourselves. So, usually first meetings, second day meetings, and seventh day meetings have some of this content. I'm still thinking all the time, or so much thinking, so little attention, such rare awareness, so much sleep, so little waking up. Are we reporting about what's going on, or is implied in the reporting the idea that it should be different, a criticism, a putting oneself down, with all that leads to? People have already reported guilt about not doing enough, wondering whether more discipline is needed. One comes from a disciplined training place. One may either feel the lack of discipline as a self-indulgence, or some people breathe easier. A little bit less to worry about whether one is supervised or criticized. Hits us different at different times. And I'm saying us because all of these manifestation is one human consciousness, one human conditioning, manifesting in many different ways. Your way, my way today, my way, and your way tomorrow. My way is your way and yours is mine. Can one see it that way? That all these differences in working, concentrating, frazzledness, fantasizing, or presence, awareness, is all one manifestation of one human kind. Different manifestations of one human kind, one human consciousness and conditioning, and that which lies beyond or in between, above and below this conditioning, which we've been calling emptiness, silence, vastness, without any personality. I have to every once in a while mention this, already right at the beginning. Just put it there, say it, and then come back to this question of practice. The reason I have dropped the word practice long ago is, simply put, that the implication of practice is doing something repetitively. Now, you may tell me, no, this is not what I do when I sit down. I don't repeat a mantra or a koan or counting my breathing. I just call sitting down and attending, I call that my practice. Well, that's all right. You can call anything by any name you wish. Somebody said, to me you are a teacher. That's fine for you. I don't see myself this way. Don't use that image for myself, but I don't object you using it, but we can inquire into how it is being used. Is it very factual? Somebody's talking, has a microphone, others grouped around. Is this why one calls this person a teacher? Or because one likes to come here, listen to her talk, dialogue with her alone or in groups in which we're all learning from each other. I'm learning from you. It's not a one-way street. But because as one person I like to come to, listen to, talk with, therefore I call her a teacher. I need a label for it. This is all right. Or is there more added to this image? We touched about it yesterday. Superiority, magical qualities, which the fantasy easily and facilely adds, embellishes the image, which is a trap, because then that hinders the looking here simply, awareing here, not through the eyes of the teacher, but with new eyes here. See the danger of what is made of the image teacher, or the teacher image. Anything is fine, it just serves simplification of communication. The moment it becomes complicated, it can become an obstruction to looking, listening on my own. I listen to the teacher's words or the person's words. She may point out something. I still have to verify it here, whether this is really so. Maybe it's immediately seen, maybe not. Maybe it's seen differently, so I come back and say, wait a minute, I see this differently. Can we look at it again together? That is simple relationship without the added complication of imagery. What you are, what I am, in your presence, when you're superior. Of course I'm inferior. If I think you have a lot of wisdom, then I lack that. And if I think I lack it, then I behave accordingly. That's the magic of words. Such power over this brain and organism to grow and unfold and develop according to how we think we are, what other people have told us about us. And not easy to look afresh in the midst of all of this development, conditioning through other people's evaluations of me. But it's not impossible. That's the amazing beauty of this work. That there isn't only a conditioned being, very rigid, seemingly very rigid, very repetitive, always reacting in the same way. Some people tell me they're in sheer despair over, and nothing changes, always the same, angry or fearful or whatever reaction. So, coming to this question of what is the practice here? Can we watch it all, behold it all, the reactiveness, the pain, the pleasure, or the boredom. And here and there wonder what is boredom. Not be satisfied with a label, which we are. We've been trained to be satisfied with explanations. The brain probably, if you could scan its waves, may show a decrease in agitation after an explanation has been received. It feels calmer. I don't know, I've never done this. This is for the brain people to do. But one doesn't have to have a brain person do this kind of thing. One can feel it. Or one begins to feel that an explanation does not satisfy. Because fears and angers, reactiveness, insecurity cannot be explained away. It's there. It beckons to be looked at, felt, been in touch with, doesn't it? Somebody asked me this morning, what do you mean really by being in touch with fear? Can we go into this directly so one can get beyond the conceptual level? I ought to be in touch. How do I get in touch? Oh, I've been so much in touch, it's coming out of my ears. So, fear. This is how we started. I can't reproduce the dialogue, but we can recreate it. What is it that we label fear? What does that label directly refer to? And then quiet, silent, looking, listening inwardly, feeling inwardly. And the person says, such and such movements, whatever. Something discernible, palpable. Which feels unpleasant, unwanted. One wants to get rid of it. All the memories of having had this fear before are mobilized. And the memory says it's going to get worse, it's never gotten better. Whatever all memory says, it's not what is going on here right now. This is not memory right now, even though memory does plenty to cover it up with its stories about the past. So, to see that and say, wait a minute, let me get directly in touch. Not exactly getting rid of memory, but in spite of memory, what is this? And what is this? Not necessarily calling for brain answers, analytical descriptions. Although there are times when there is a real drive to analyze this thing, well then do it. But ask yourself, don't say this is that, but is it this? And then be quiet and listen. What does this answer? It answers. It may say, yes it is, or no, it isn't quite. You haven't quite hit it. But in the case this morning, this person has been through that, analyzing of it. She wants to know, what does it mean to really be in touch with fear? This movement, which is unpleasant and one wants to get rid of it, it seems dangerous. So what we were asking and looking is there resistance to feeling this? I don't like this. The thought, I don't like this, even if it's a vague thought, is already a physical bracing against, a physical tensing, stressing against itself. The body is stressing against itself. On one moment it produces symptoms triggered by some thought or memory. Symptoms arise, And the next moment, the body resists what it has just produced, which produces more tension, more agony, more implied danger. Whether it's dangerous or not, we don't even know. But feeling these so-called fear symptoms triggers a response in the brain. Wait a minute, there's danger here. Watch out. Watch out for something dangerous. So, can in this inward listening, not deterred by all the memories that want to say what it is, let them be out of the way. Just listen again. Is there resistance? That's what we were asking. And that takes very subtle attention. Because we're so used to our resistances that we don't notice them. In the beginning, as this work proceeds, there's less interference by memory telling us what everything is, because that's been seen through, it doesn't get at what's really going on right now. As there's less interference by thinking how it's going to turn out in the future. Less stuff surrounding it and covering it up. Resistance reveals itself. The resistance that goes with this feeling, I don't want this. This is bad for me. And to really catch it, feel it. This body tensing against itself. Not do anything about it, because this may be the next conditioned question popping up, well, what should I do about all of this that is being discovered? And the answer, the simple answer is nothing. Nothing. Just tapping. Just listening, sensing, being there. In a new, more spacious way. By more spacious, I mean not making this now the concentration task or target. This is what I really have to concentrate on. That's a very exclusive activity of the body-mind, excluding what else is going on, and sort of reinforcing this idea of me as a concentrator, concentrating on me as a sufferer. The division is obvious. There's no sufferer and no concentrator, there's just what's going on. Movements, painful movements, wherever for some people, in the heart, stomach, solar plexus, intestines, muscles, and maybe all of it. To just allow it to be there, to behold it all in silent space. What does silent space mean? Somebody asked me that. What do you mean by that? First of all, it's not graspable intellectually. The concept silent space can be a comforting one or making sense, but it is not what is referred to by the word. And what is it that is referred to by the word? Using words again to explain it? I'll try. It is the absence of a reference point. me and mine, the absence of a point of perspective. Let me say a little bit more about that. Normally the way we live and have learned to live from each other and are teaching our children to live, normally, I'm not talking about exceptional times, everything we see and hear and say is sort of referred to me. This may sound very abstract. I always come into the picture, how I like it, what it means to me, what it reminds me of. Or this person who's saying something, is she saying something against me? I think she is. Here, I'm there, really thick in it, as a reference point. I can't listen to what somebody says without thinking maybe they mean me with it. Now, maybe somebody is saying something, referring to something that I've done. So can that be heard silently, spaciously? Not linking up to any emotions to defense, aggression, paranoia. They are against me, all of these links, so thick for most of us. So the question may seem very idealistic. Is it possible to hear and see and walk through the land and be with people without referring everything to oneself? This, I think, is a good question to ask. How it'll be answered will come out of our moment-to-moment contacts. One can ask, as one is in the thick of referring something to oneself again, maybe ask the question, how did I get into this picture? How did you get into this picture? Not asking for explanations, but waking up to the fact that habitually we seem almost incapable of seeing, hearing, touching, experiencing, relating without me as the focal point in the middle of it all. Is this heard as a criticism, as something negative, something I should not be doing? Then as, again, listening with the focal point. Or can we listen and say, let's check that out? I'm going to watch it. Sort of scientifically, as it were. How quickly I get into the picture of something that is just simply there, happening, moving about, somebody talking, telling of their experiences, of their big exploits or something, and something urges to also get in there and say what I did, what I've done, and so forth. So we were asking, what is emptiness? Silence, space. And one of the things that came to mind is absence of me as the focal point to which everything is related and pulled and drawn, and then reacting from there. And does the question come up, what do I do about that? Because I do want that empty space. Do we really? We think we do because it sounds like the salvation out of our mess. And yet quite a few people have always throughout the years reported that at the moment of touching emptiness, There's a recoiling in fear. Nourished by the thoughts, what's happening to me? Am I disappearing? Will I not be there anymore? And it can trigger panic or a touch of fear. Depends on where one is at the moment. So not to assume this is something I want, rather watch what is going on, with which we're coming back to this so-called practice or work here in such a beautiful open place. First 2 days full of sunshine and greening and budding. Mildness, absence of strong winds. Can there be a watching, beholding, touching what's there in the way we have gone into it? Not knowing where it will lead. No one does. It may not lead any place. Actually, always leads back to here, where we already are, out of fantasy to birdsong, or whatever emotion may be at work. It doesn't sound impressive or majestic to just be with what's there. But there isn't anything else. Everything else is made up of fantasy. Sometimes people tell me that elsewhere it's richer, there's more going on, which is attractive and nourishing. That's true. I get many reports from people who have been here, are now elsewhere, and love what's going on in other places. But even in other places, with all the richness, we're all going to die. And we're all afraid of dying, are we? Or are we not? Is searching or seeking the richness fear of boredom, fear of nothingness, fear of emptiness, which is our true being? Of course, as one doesn't get impacted by the thought of boredom, we talked about the fact how thoughts affect our moods. Saying this is boring is already provoking some kind of a mood. If we get through that, through the word, and wonder what is going on, and really listen to the sounds of boredom, which are nowhere to be felt, it's just something else, wanting something different. Not wanting what is there, but what is there has not been touched. It's only been touched by thought, oh, this is old stuff. I want something exciting. So, as we become more wise about being with what's there, quietly, without surging forward to the idea of something else, just staying here, listening, looking, with a new kind of patience. Maybe we'll notice that it is not at all boring. There's lots going on. Not to entertain us or excite us, but it's going on. Wind and sounds and smells and the beauty of the land, beauty of walking, the miracle of walking. One has never felt it so as acutely as when the mind is a little bit uncluttered, walking through the upper field toward the woods. or the lower field. It doesn't matter. That came up in fantasy. Now, does this sound as though a reward was being held out? If you only stick it out here, you'll be richly rewarded with all kinds of experiences. If that expectation is there, it will not be fulfilled. What is here simply is only revealed when there is no coming at it with expectation, because expectation always means slurring over it toward something imagined. Let me just say one more thing. It'll probably come up in other talks. But coming to for an instant and realizing there's been nothing but thinking and fantasizing, involvement in pleasure or pain, fantasized. Is it possible to see the whole scenario at a glance and let it be? Beware of engaging in criticizing oneself for being so thought involved, for being such a poor meditator, or rationalizing it, well, this is just what human nature is. Just so cleanly leave it alone. And for a moment, just wonder what else is there beside the fantasy still reverberating in the memory and the felt urge to go with criticism or to go back to the fantasy. That urge may be there too. Fantasy is more exciting than this moment I don't know what to do with. So, moment of waking up. Leave alone what was and wonder what is. I did say, see at a glance what is still reverberating in the memory. Seeing at a glance means being intimate what it is that thought is thinking about all the time. Nothing to be repressed, downgraded, upgraded, but see it. So there's more understanding of what the human mind is busy with. Because there's the tendency then to philosophize about it. Well, that's also what the human mind is busy with. Make comments upon itself, its thoughts. But do you see what I mean? Doesn't it behoove us to be familiar? Without praise or blame, what almost constantly occupies the mind. So there is deeper understanding of humanity, not just ourselves. We represent the whole. think this is all for today. We will end here.